Hey everybody, welcome to Hope Church, and we are so excited that you're with us. We're excited that you're online and on site using bricks and clicks to gather together in worship, not just to observe, not just to hang out on the couch, but to worship Jesus Christ with us. And I know some of you are in the point where you're still not sure whether you're a worshiper or not. We love that you're here with us too. By the way, I'm Pastor Paul Knight, and this is...
And I'm Brad Johnson. We're glad you're with us today. I'm going to take you through what our Sunday processes are going to look like now, because we are officially going live with our services on Sunday mornings.
We are live this morning at 9 o'clock.
Oh, yeah.
And we'll still be broadcasting at 10:30 and 6 and on demand through the rest of the week. Brad,
right.
Take us through those steps.
That's right. So when you think and are deciding about coming to church on a Sunday morning, here's the process that you need to go through. First of all, starting on Mondays, you will go to our website and you can reserve a spot at any of the open services. They'll show it. Right now it's just 9 o'clock, but in the future we'll have 10:30. We could have 6 p.m. We could have a service at midweek. But you'll see those services and you can choose which one you want to attend. Okay. Secondly, once you reserve, we're going to invite you to arrive early to those services. For a 9 a.m., you might want to arrive at 8:30, because it's going to take us time for our ushers to get together, to seat you, and to do it so that we can properly social distance.
Yeah, we want to do that so that we maintain all the appropriate protocols, so that we're not all rushing in, grabbing each other and shaking hands. We're not doing any of that. We're still following the protocols, mostly because we want to keep each other safe. And so that's a helpful thing if you come a little bit early and be ready.
Yeah, and so when you do come, we're going to ask you to enter through the main church doors. And then when you exit, we're going to have you exit out the mall doors. So through the commons, because that way, as other services are coming, if we're adding more services, then we're not intermingling, we're not running into each other, that we're trying to keep one good flow there.
And I know some of you, you don't want to be sat by an usher. You don't want an usher to tell you where to sit. We're just asking, please give us grace for the next several months, maybe, and let our ushers seat you. We're going to seat front to back. And then at the end of the service, we're going to dismiss back to front. And then everybody can leave. And if you want to go visit with friends out in the parking lot and stuff, we'd love that. We really do love that. But give us a little bit of space so that we can do what we need to do here inside the facility.
Yep. We're not going to be handing out bulletins. You're not going to see a worship folder. What we're going to invite you to do is get the app on your phone. When you download the app, right there in the app, you can find the sermon notes for today's sermon, and you can take notes while you listen to Pastor Paul or whoever's teaching for that week.
And I want to make a special comment about the notes. They're designed so that you can fill in information, but at the end of the notes, also, there's a bunch of discussion questions. And here's what I'd encourage you to do. During the week, you're going to have, especially maybe this week's sermon, maybe not especially this week's sermon, but maybe every sermon, you're going to have friends that you think, oh, I wish they would hear this.
Yeah,
one of the beauties of the online is you can get online with a friend at any place or send them a link and say, hey, listen to this, and then let's discuss it later.
Yep.
This week, there's some special exercises to discuss with each other and for you to do to help you take a step of advancement in your spiritual life.
If you have some close friends, maybe people that you've stayed in touch with throughout this COVID era, maybe you want to invite them. You're not quite comfortable yet coming to church, but you want to see people. Invite them to your house. Have a watch party. Enjoy church together. Then maybe a meal, and then use those discussion questions to have
Netflix does watch parties. HBO does watch parties. You could
Hope Church
does watch parties.
That's right.
Gather friends. Do whatever you need to do to be safe in your home. But let's take advantage of this beautiful space that God has given us through a virus to have people at your home and to watch, or to invite them online, however it's best for your friend.
And, we want to also invite, for those that are coming to church today, be respectful of one another. Some people will wear masks, some won't. But we have
and some
to
people
be
you may wish would. No, never mind.
Yeah. Make sure we're washing our hands. Make sure we're not hugging and high-fiving and handshaking. But be respectful of each other's space, and it will be an awesome morning. We're excited that you're here. We're excited that you're with us. We're excited to worship together today.
Again, don't just sit. Don't just be passive. This is the privilege to worship the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. You have a great day, great afternoon, and a great evening. Lord bless you.
God bless.
Testing. We're not starting yet, but this is so funny. Some of you have never been to church this early in your entire life. It's like incredible.
Hey everybody, I'm Sajan, the Director of Communications here at Hope, and I just want to say thank you for coming to church with us today. Whether you're watching in Grand Forks or out of town or even from out of state, we are grateful to be hosting you. For those of you who are new to Hope, we would love the chance to get to connect with you. Head over to gfhope.org/connect to fill out a connect card so that we can meet you. Join a supportive community by checking out our Thursday night support groups. Several groups are meeting in person right now on Thursday nights at 6 p.m. right here at Hope. To see a full list of groups and to get signed up for one, visit gfhope.org/support groups. As you may have heard already, we are excited to announce that as of Sunday, June 21st, we have entered into stage 3 of our reopening plan. This means that starting on Sundays, we will now be hosting on-site worship here at Hope. For the consideration and safety of everyone, we will be practicing social distancing, which means that as of now, we can host up to 200 people in our worship center per service. You can make a reservation for a Sunday service starting each Monday on our website's homepage by clicking the Make Reservation button, then clicking on the service time available to attend, and then clicking Register to complete your reservation. You can also find the reservation link on the Hope Church app and post it to our Facebook page each Monday. We can't wait to see you! For kids ages preschool through 5th grade, online we have fun, interactive Sunday school lessons that your kids can do right from home. Parents can visit the HOPEKidz YouTube channel or the HOPEKidz page on our website to gain access to new lessons each Sunday. And if you're a youth from 6th to 12th grade, we invite you to join Hope Youth for summer activities that range from team events to cookouts to movie nights, scavenger hunts, game nights, and so much more. Visit the Hope Youth page on our website for details. Now, as we head into service today, whether you're watching on Facebook, YouTube, or on our website, we want to invite you to check out the comments and chat features where live staff members are on the other side of the screen engaging with you. If you're watching on our website today and would like prayer, you can click on the live prayer button where a Hope staff person is waiting on standby to pray with you right now. And if you're watching on YouTube or Facebook or need prayer any other time of the week, you can also submit your prayer requests through our website, on the app, or by calling or emailing the church office. To read all relevant updates, you can visit gfhope.org/updates or be checking out our Facebook and Instagram pages weekly, as well as our weekly newsletter, which you can sign up for on our website. You can also stay up to date conveniently right on your mobile device with our Hope Church app. Just text the words GFHOPE app to 77977 to download it for free at any time. And if you're feeling a little lost with all of the digital communication, we are totally here to help you. If you need help learning how to access any of our online resources, please visit gfhope.org/tutorials for step-by-step instructions. Or you can always feel free to call or email the church office Monday through Thursday, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. with your questions. Well, we're about to enter into service, and before we do, we want to say that we are grateful to be in this together with you all, and we look forward to the opportunities to connect with you throughout the week. We are thankful you're all here with us today from wherever you are, so enjoy the service, and let's get ready to worship.
How's everybody doing? Yes! All of you online, all of you all around the world, welcome to Hope. This is amazing. Okay, here's the deal. Today is Father's Day. If you're at home, do the same thing, right? Even if you're by yourself. If you are a father, would you please stand? Woo! Oh, no, more. Give him more. Give him more. Okay, dads, clap for each other. Okay, those of you at home, clap for yourself or have your family clap for you. Keep clapping. Click clap. This is a big deal. Okay, so here's what I want to do. I want to take a moment and I want to pray for the dads, but before I do that, I want to say something to you. Thank you for engaging in your spiritual life. Because there's a lot of circles where people think that's a feminine thing. Right, where it's not manly. Look at, you need to have a guy, you need to be a guy, a father with guts to pursue Jesus. And so I applaud you in my heart. And here's the thing. Having been a little kid, And growing up and then gradually watching my dad turn his heart towards Jesus, like you have no idea. And some of you guys probably feel so inadequate spiritually. Like I don't know even what to, here's what you do. Here's all you have to do as a father. Follow Jesus. Like learn from him. Let him teach your heart. Keep your heart pliable and open and let him teach you. You don't have to be perfect. Like just be you, a fully devoted follower of Jesus, and walk the path and let God shape you. And then love the snot out of your kids. And let someone else wipe it off. Okay. That wasn't part of the deal. I wasn't supposed to say that. By the way, dads, stay standing, right? Because we're doing a drawing in a moment. I'm not going to talk about it yet, but we're going to do a drawing, and I'll make your announcement later. Okay, because everybody who's a father gets to. Okay, I'm going to pray first. Okay, Heavenly Father, thank you so much for these men. The men in this room and the men all around the world who are standing right now as dads. God, help us. Help us to do what you dream of us doing. Help us to be who you dream of us being. God, help us not to fake it, but just to be honest about it. Help us when we feel inadequate, Father, to be honest before you. God, when we feel like we're doing well, help us to be honest and rejoice before you, Father. Give us wisdom with our kids, whatever age they are. God, I thank you for these men, that you allow us to have open hearts to you. So God, in the name of your Son, Jesus, we thank you for the men of this church, the men who are contemplating relationship with you, the men who are in relationship with you, the men who are following you. God, thank you so much. Amen. You may be seated. Okay, Jimmy, come on up. Okay, so you're going to do a drawing, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, tell me about it.
Well, dads.
By the way, I'm not going to interrupt him the whole time.
Would you pray for me? Thank you. Dads out there, dads in here, we have 3 Green Mountain pellet grills.
Whoa.
To give away.
Whoa, a
one
Green Mountain
at. I've always wanted to do that.
You have it, yeah. It's not like you haven't done it before, Jimmy.
One at each service, okay?
So if people come to multiple services, do they get? Can you register every service?
Paul, this is maybe not a good idea. Yeah, you could technically register at.
You can register at any service.
Yes, you can.
Will there be less people at the 6?
So there might be. So if you're a dad, you can register, or you can register your dad. Now the only way that you can register is to go to the HOPE app. And on the HOPE app, you're going to find a link that says Father's Day giveaway.
So this is a trick. This is to get people to download the app, isn't it? For a grill.
Maybe.
Okay, so you got to download the app to register. Can you register your father? Like if you're a kid, can they register their dad? Or does it have to be just the dads?
Yes.
So kids can register their father?
Yes.
Can a wife register her husband who might be a father? Rachel, just say it.
I'm going to move on. So if you don't have the HOPE app.
Wait, can you register, Rachel, can you register Drew, your husband?
No.
No? Okay. No. Did you say something about an announcement?
There's no announcement. People, there's no announcment.
Mind.
So if you don't have the HOPE app, people, what you can do is you can text GFHOPE app to 77977. And make sure when you put it in, it's GFHOPE, leave a space, then app to 77977. It's very easy. It'll walk you through it, and then you can register. Okay?
For a Green Mountain grill. It's a smoker.
It is a smoker.
It's portable. It weighs 62 pounds.
What?
Weighs 62 pounds.
It does weigh 62 pounds.
With pellets in it.
Maybe a little more with pellets in it.
69 pounds with a decent steak.
Yes.
In it.
Yes. Thank you, Paul.
I'm believing. Hey, you guys, worship well. God is worthy all the time.
If you're here today, would you stand? If you're there watching online, I also want to encourage you to stand. This is an honor of our God, who we get the privilege of worshiping today. From Galatians 2, chapter 20, it says, I have been crucified with Christ, and it is no longer I who live, but Christ lives in me. And the life which I now live in the flesh, I live by faith in the Son God who loved me and gave himself for me. My shame. Who could carry that kind of weight? It was my turn till I met you. I was singing, I was breathing, but not alive. All my failures I tried to hide. It was my turn till I met you. You called my name, and I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness, into your glorious day. You called my name, and I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness, into your glorious day. Now your mercy has saved my soul. Now your freedom is all that I know. The old made new. Jesus, when I met you, and you called my name, and I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness, into your glorious day. You called my name, and I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness, into your glorious day. That's right, amen. Sing this with me. I needed rescue. I needed rescue. My sin was heavy, but chains break at the weight of your glory. I needed shelter. I was an orphan. Now you called me a citizen of heaven. When I was broken, you were my healing. And your love is the air that I breathe in. I have a future. My eyes are open. 'Cause when you call my name, and I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness, into your glorious day. Oh, you called my name, and I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness, into your glorious day. 1, 2, 3, 4. God, the glory is yours, the kingdom is come, and the battle is over. Jesus, in your name we rise, and the glory is yours, glory is yours. Oh God, the glory is yours, the kingdom is come, and the battle is over. Jesus, in your name we rise, and the glory is yours, glory is yours. Sing it with me. Blessing, honor, strength, and power kingdom is come and the battle is over. Jesus, in your name we rise, and the glory is yours. Glory is yours, oh God, the glory is yours. The kingdom is come and the battle is over. Jesus, in your name we rise, and the glory is yours. Glory is yours, oh God, the glory is yours. The kingdom is come and the battle is over. Jesus, in your name we rise, and the glory is yours. Glory is yours. Nobody beside you. There will never be anyone, anything like you. Nobody beside you. There will never be anyone, anything like you. Nobody beside you. There will never be anyone, anything like you. Nobody beside you. There will never be anyone, anything like you. Like you, Jesus.
Jesus, yours is the victory. We serve a God who has conquered death, conquered the grave. He brings us life, and he calls us to follow him. When you're following him, there could be times of disappointment, discouragement. There could be times where it doesn't make sense, but he has the victory. He promises a helper for us, his Spirit, to walk with us, to live inside of us, and to lead us beyond where we could ever imagine. This next song speaks about that, so I invite you to sing this song as a prayer and invite him to lead you wherever he would call you. Sing with me. You call me out upon the waters, the great unknown, where feet may fail. There I find you in the mystery, in oceans deep. My faith will stand. trust is without borders. Let me walk upon the waters wherever you would call me. Take me deeper than my feet could ever wander. My faith will be made stronger in the presence of my Savior. Spirit, lead me where my trust is without borders. Let me walk upon the waters wherever you would call me. Take me deeper than my feet could ever wander, and my faith would be made stronger in the presence of my Savior. Take me deeper, my faith would be made stronger. And I will call upon your name. Keep my eyes above the waves. My soul will rest in your embrace, for I am yours, and you are mine.
I invite you to pray with me. Father, how amazing it is that we can call you Abba, Father. You know, when we place our faith and we place our trust and we place our hope in you, Jesus Christ, that you call us children of God. And God, we get to live into that. We get to live in being your children. And we allow this song to be the cry of our heart that, God, you would lead us wherever you want us and that we would follow. That you would take us out of our comfort zone, that you would bring us into places where we can see your glory and we can see your love. And so today, God, we declare this as a prayer of calling, God. Call us into those places. Help us to lead well. Help us to obey you. We worship you, Jesus. It's in your name we pray. Amen. For those in the room, you can have a seat. We're going to continue our time of worship today with the giving of our tithes and our offerings. And you're going to see options on the screen. For those of you online, you'll also see those options. So you can get out your app, you can text, you can, however that works for you. Or on your way out, when you're being dismissed today, there is a box on the way out. If you want to give a physical offering, you sure can do that. We're not going to be passing baskets or anything. But take this next few minutes just to think about and to thank God for his provision, for what he's provided you, that you're able to be generous and give to what God is doing here. We thank you so much.
So Jesus was in this house. He was in the house of a person that I think he would have called a friend. As he was in this house, there was this crowd pressing in. The house was probably the house of a really wealthy person, a person with a lot of means. Probably a house that had an inner courtyard that people were pressing into to hear and to hang out with Jesus. They were, according to the Gospel of Luke, they were eating and drinking, which sounds like a party to me. Jesus was there, and all these people around pressing in, and there was this group of religious people that were also there. The religious people who were like looking at all of the people that were hanging out with Jesus, and here's what happened. They started to whisper. They started to whisper because that's kind of what religious people do, right? They whisper about the people that are around them. They whisper about the people that are like so much unlike them. They started to whisper, and they started to say things like, Jesus is hanging out with tax collectors. Right? Not like the IRS people. These were tax collectors from the days of Jesus, which I'll tell you about in a second. But they started whispering, Jesus is hanging out with tax collectors and sinners. People who, like if you'd understand, people who were like prostitutes and drug dealers and pimps and people with felony records. And Jesus is hanging out with those kinds of people. I started whispering. Let me tell you what I hope and pray. I want to be the kind of Jesus follower that people whisper about, that religious people whisper about and say, can you believe he was hanging out with so-and-so? Can you see who he's brought in as a friend? I pray that we would be a people, wherever we are, wherever God has planted us, wherever you are watching online, I pray that those of us who follow Jesus, who love Jesus, who care about Jesus, who want to do the kinds of things that Jesus did, I pray that we are the kind of people that people whisper about. Especially religious people, that religious people whisper about us. Can you see who they are hanging out with? They're hanging out with people that you would never, ever expect to see with church people. The people, like the people who would whisper and say, I know Bill from work. He hasn't gone home on a Friday night with the same woman for 6 weeks. What's he doing with them? Have you seen how she struts her stuff? Are you kidding me? Those are people who love Jesus. What are they hanging out with her for? She's broken up 3 marriages, and I think she's working on her 4th. Are you kidding me? Do you know how filthy rich that guy is? Do you know how he made his money? Do you know who he's cheated around town? Are you kidding me? Look at that person. You can look. Did you see what I just did? I'm going to say you can look him up on the internet. You can look him up on the internet. You can find his picture. Do you know what people say about him? I want to be the kind of guy that people who are religious whisper about. I want to be the kind of church, I want us to be the kind of people that religious people whisper out. Here, let me read the story. The story takes place in Capernaum. That's the base, ministry base of where Jesus was. It was like his hometown. That's not where he was born, and he was from Nazareth, but he hung out in Capernaum, just at the north side of the Sea of Galilee. And in Capernaum was this trade route, and people who came through there had to stop at the tax booths. Right? The tax booths were like rip-off joints. They were places where people extorted money and cheated each other. I'll explain in a second. Let me read the story. Mark chapter 2, verse 13 through 17. Let me just say this again. We are in the Gospel of Mark. We've been in the Gospel of Mark for like 5 or 6 weeks. We're almost through chapter 2. Right? And we're going to keep going all the way through it. And last week we were in chapter 3, but I'm jumping back to chapter 2 because I wanted us to hear this story. Right? And so we're in chapter 2. And if you haven't read the Gospel of Mark lately, please read it. Because all you have to do is download it on the YouVersion app on your phone or your iPad or your computer. You can press the little speaker thing. It will read the Gospel of Mark to you. Or you can read it yourself, or you can do what I do. Follow along as he reads. And I like the British voice, right? Because it makes me feel cool. Once again, Jesus went out beside this lake. Okay, never mind. Once again, Jesus went out. This is chapter 2, verse 13 through 17. Once again, Jesus went out beside the lake, the Sea of Galilee. A large crowd came to him, which, by the way, hours was happening. Jesus couldn't get away from the crowd. Because when you heal people, when people's lives are transformed by hanging out with you, everybody who knows someone who needs their life transformed or healed wants to bring their friends to see this guy. Once again, Jesus went out beside the lake. A large crowd came to him, and he began to teach them. As he walked along, he saw Levi, son of Alphaeus, sitting at the tax collector's booth. Follow me, Jesus told him. And Levi got up and followed him. Well, Jesus was having dinner at Levi's house. I don't know how much time space is in there. I'm guessing very little, maybe a day or two, maybe even that night. Well, Jesus was having dinner at Levi's house. Many tax collectors and sinners. The word sinner, there's harmatia, the missing the mark ones. The ones who, even though they try, seem to just be off center from God all the time. They just miss the mark over and over and over. The off center ones, the missing the mark ones. Well, Jesus was having dinner at Levi's house. Many tax collectors and sinners were eating with him and his disciples. For there were many who followed him. When the teachers of the law, who were Pharisees, saw him eating with sinners and tax collectors, they asked the disciples, "Why does he eat with tax collectors and sinners?" On hearing this, Jesus said to them, "It is not the healthy who need a doctor, but the sick. I've not come to call the righteous, but sinners." It is not the healthy who need a doctor, but the sick. I have not come to call the righteous, but sinners. It's not the healthy. Sometimes I think those of us who are followers of Jesus focus so much on the good people that we forget those who miss it all the time. So let me like kind of flesh out the story. Levi, who was also known as Matthew, who also wrote the Gospel of Matthew, right? Levi is filthy rich. Like that's just the way you are if you're a tax collector in these days, because here's what happened. Rome, who had conquered this area, Rome was an occupying power. They taxed the wits out of the people in this village, in this area, in Galilee. They would tax the snot out of them, right? And people didn't like the taxes, just like us. Here's the difference, though. When we get taxed, most of the time, when we get taxed, almost all, when we get taxed usually, every once in a while when we get taxed, we benefit from the tax. Like we get roads paid for by tax dollars. We get mosquito control. Right? I'll be honest, that $500 a year, right? I'd double it if I knew that, they could charge, those mosquitoes, if you're not from around here, the mosquitoes in our village are the size of robins. They carry small children away and suck them dry like raisins. You can look it up on the internet, right? So our tax dollars pay for that kind of stuff, and I love that. I don't like a lot of that, but I love. But in the days of Jesus, the tax collectors, the people that paid their taxes, they got nothing. It's not like the Roman government. You know what they got? Roman government protection in the form of a military that kept them in line. And so what would happen was Rome would come into an area, they would look at the area and say, look at you, we think you guys can handle this much taxes. This is the debt we're going to put on this area. They would look at the wealthy people and they say, look, I think they can pay this much, I think they can pay this much. They look at the poor people and say, I think they can pay. And they taxed everything. They taxed fish, they taxed carts, they taxed donkeys, they taxed everything you brought in, everything you brought out. They taxed everything except your breath. And so they would look and say, I think you can handle, for example, I think this area could handle $35 million in taxes. And so they would say, $35 million. And then it would call the people together and they say, the tax code this year is going to charge you $35 million. And then people would bid for the opportunity to collect the taxes. And here's how they would do that. They would pay up front $35 million to the Roman government. I'm just using that as a number as example, right? They would pay so you had to have $35 million to be able to collect the taxes. Or whatever the Roman government decided, you have to pay that up front, and then you would start to collect the taxes. But you wanted to make some money, so you would charge a little bit more. They didn't post, like, for every mill you have, every piece of property you have, the mill rate is this, or the property tax rate. They didn't do that. They just let the tax collector charge whatever he wanted. So the tax collector would pay up front the certain amount of money, and then he would charge more, and he would charge more to pad his pockets and to pay back his debt. He would keep paying, and when he reached the amount that the Roman government charged them, they would return that money to him, and then he would have paid it, and they'd return it with interest. So he got rich that way as well. And then he would look at you and say, you know what, I think you can handle a little bit more. And you voluntarily, with the help of the Roman soldiers behind him, paid your taxes. If you're a fisherman, like Peter and Andrew and James and John, who were following Jesus, they were used to taking their buckets of fish to the tax collector's booth, having them count the fish and charge them per fish taxes. So you naturally, when you knew that he was cheating, he lived in that big house over there on the hill. You naturally loved him. Not. You hated the ground he walked on because he was cheating your people. And here's what else. He was one of you at one time. It'd be like someone from this town saying, I want to work for Russia. Or, I'm going to work for Canada. And we're going to charge you taxes because Canada's coming in to take over. And I'm going to work for them, and I'm not going to be on your side. I'm going to charge you more and more and more and more. You can feel it in your gut. You'd be seething. So Jesus comes along to this guy, and I don't know how often Matthew or Levi had heard Jesus talk. I don't know how often he'd heard. Probably often he'd heard Jesus preaching along the way. Maybe in the back of his mind he thought, I would never fit. I would never fit. They hate me. I would never belong there. I'm the kind of guy that they spit on my shoes as I walk by. Oh, I actually did that. Sorry. Someone can sanitize this area later. I'm guessing that they just hated him. And Jesus comes up to him and says, follow me. And I'm thinking Peter and Andrew are in the background saying, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? What kind of deal is this? And then they end up at his house. And the religious people start gossiping and asking questions. Because the Pharisees at that time, the Pharisees were the kind of people, their goal, their system, their plan was they became more holy by removing themselves from everything that wasn't holy. They were what we would call separatists. They were the kind of people that said, if this person doesn't function the way I think they should, I'm going to separate myself from them. The Sadducees, which were another religious group, their philosophy was we'll meld in. We'll meld in and be just like them. Jesus was neither. Jesus maintained his holiness and loved people who were not holy. Right? The Pharisees separated themselves you know what distresses me? You know what distresses me? It seems like the longer someone spends as a follower of Jesus in our culture, the less they hang out with people who don't know Jesus. That should wreck us when we read about this. Jesus came to seek and save the lost. Here's where I want to end the message today.
Like if we say that we love people and we don't know anybody who doesn't know Jesus yet, let me rephrase it. If I say I follow Jesus and there's no one in my relationships, my close friends, my relationships, that doesn't know Jesus yet, how can I say I'm following him? Like if what he does is seek people who don't know him yet, how can we say that? So here's a question just to put in the back of your head. The Pharisees were those that pulled themselves away from everything that didn't represent God in their mind. The Sadducees were those that decided we're going to not worry about all of those things. We're just going to hang out, but their lives completely like melded in. There was hardly any difference between them and the people who didn't know Jesus. And then there was Jesus, who lived a sinless life and loved like crazy to the point of willing to die for those who didn't know him yet. Are you more like the Pharisees? Or are you more like the Sadducees, where people can't tell whether you're a Christian or not by the way you live, or by the way you speak, or by the way you love? Or are you more like Jesus? Are you so separate from the people that Jesus is seeking that you don't know anybody, or care about anybody, or not loving anybody who doesn't know him already? Right? Or you're so involved with everything that's not like Jesus at all that people can't tell that you're actually a follower of Jesus? Or are you like Jesus, who is willing to die for people who didn't know him? So I'd like to just pull out a couple more pieces of this story and help us think through how beautiful this is, that Levi, this filthy, rich, cheater, extortionist, people who used people to benefit himself, is called by Jesus to follow. Here's my first point. Jesus came only for sinners. Jesus came only for sinners. I used to have a pastor that I listened to, and he used to say all the time, Jesus died only for sinners. Jesus died only for sinners. If you haven't discovered that you are missing the mark one, you're probably like the Pharisees. You think you actually don't. And I realize some of us, we've learned to say, oh yeah, I'm a sinner, because that's the religious thing to do. But you, in your gut, you actually don't believe that you're as bad as other people. That your sin is a little bit better. You have a little bit nicer sin, a little bit flavored sin, a little bit more Democratic sin, a little bit more Republican sin, a little bit more upper Midwestern sin. You're not as bad as the people down south. Or you're not as bad as the people that live in Washington. They're sinners. Right? You're a little bit kinder version of a person who despises God in your heart. Jesus died only for sinners. Let me read this. On hearing this, Jesus said to them, it's not the healthy who need a doctor, but the sick. I have not come to call the righteous, but sinners. He called Levi, who in his core of his being knew that he cheated people every day. And Levi didn't have to fix his life before he followed. Levi didn't have to fix his life before the disciples let them come along, because it wasn't their call, it was Jesus' call. In 1 Timothy chapter 1, verse 15, it says this: here's a trustworthy saying that deserves full acceptance. Christ, Jesus, came into the world to save sinners. Take a moment and think for a second. Like, who have you been watching lately? Around you? Or on TV? Or, like, who are the sinners you're observing? That you are thinking in the back of your head, I don't think they could ever become a follower of Jesus because they're so bad. They're so broken. They're so wrecked. See, the tax collectors and the sinners that were at Levi's house, that were hanging out with Jesus, they were the wrong crowd politically. They were. They were like some of us write off people politically as beyond hope. The people in these tax collectors, they aligned themselves with Rome, the occupying power. They were politically off base, according to everybody around them. They were the wrong crowd religiously. They were ceremonially unclean. They touched dead things. They touched Gentiles. They did things with people that a good Jewish man or woman would never do. They were the wrong crowd morally. They were willing to cheat people. And some of you are thinking, well, I don't think I should really hang out with those kinds of people. Because here's what happens. We don't think God has the power to prevent us from taking up the behaviors. We somehow think, we somehow serve a weakened God. Or maybe we're unwilling to actually follow ourselves. And some of us, here's the question. Some of us don't actually believe anymore that Jesus can actually change, transform, like make a person who once was lost, found now. We've written them off like they're too politically far gone, too morally far gone, too religiously different than me, and so they must never be able to fit in my category of what a good follower of Jesus should look like. I was visiting with someone recently, and tears coming down her face. She said, I just don't feel like I will ever be enough for God. I thought, yes, you get it. She isn't. None of us are. We'll never be enough for God. That's why we need Jesus. Jesus is enough for God. I will always, without Christ, miss the mark spiritually. What Jesus does, he comes in and makes me enough. See, some of us, maybe some of us listening online, some of us here, are finally discovering how far we are, how deeply sinful we are. There's really two categories of people that were hanging out with Jesus at this time. The sin-sick sinners who knew it, and the sin-sick sinners who would not admit it. See, one of the most beautiful discoveries you'll ever make is that you're a sinner, and that you are in need of forgiveness and grace and God's mercy. If someone is unable or unwilling to admit that they are a sinner, they are unable or unwilling to receive what Jesus offers. Let me say that again. If someone is unable or unwilling to admit that they are a sinner, they are unable or unwilling to receive what Jesus offers. When you realize how broken you are, how sinful you are, how sinful the people around you are, that any of us, if anyone is in Christ, they can be made new. Anyone. So let me do the second observation. Jesus invites sinners to new life. Jesus invites sinners to new life. Jesus invites people who are far from God, just a little bit off from God. Jesus invites people who are missing the mark ones to a new life, not just a get better and go to church kind of life. A new life. Not just a manage your sin kind of life and try to fix your alcoholism, or manage your sin and try to be less addicted to porn, or manage it. Jesus offers us a new life, a transformed life, a life that is set free from the damages of our past, set free from the guilt. Listen to this. As he walked along, he said to Levi, son of Alphaeus, sitting at the tax collector, "Follow me," Jesus said. And Matthew got up and followed him. Matthew, I don't think for a second understood everything that meant yet, but he followed. And some of us who are listening, here's what I'd say. Some of us who are here, here's what I would say. Start following. If you know that you're a sinner, if you know that you're sick of your sin, and you need a doctor, Jesus Start following. Just start getting into a relationship with him. Start walking with him, learning from him. You don't have to fix everything before you follow. You don't have to know everything before you follow. If the church people around you say, you need to stop this, you need to stop this, you need to stop this, turn to them and say, just let Jesus teach me first what I need to fix first. Will you walk with me? And let's walk together with Jesus, toward Jesus. I don't think for a second all of the things that were messed up in Matthew were fixed just because he stood up and followed. But he followed. And Jesus wasn't inviting him just to be a new and improved Levi. Jesus was inviting Levi to follow so that he'd be made new. On hearing this, Jesus said to them, it is not the healthy who need a doctor, but the sick. Do you think any doctor looks at you and says, oh, by the way, I just want you to know you're sick. I don't want to help you get well. Right? The doctor, by virtue of who they are, they want to help us get healed. I love the story that was told at the beginning of Mark where these 4 friends dragged their paralyzed friend to Jesus. Ripped open the roof, lowered him down, and Jesus looks at him and says, your sins are forgiven. Yes. Yes, can you imagine that? The power of being forgiven. Some of you know exactly what that feels like. Some of you have forgotten how sinful you are or were. And your forgiveness is distant from you. In 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 17, it says this. If anyone is in Christ, the new creation has come. The old has gone, the new is here. Jesus invites us to a new life, a life change, a transformation. He doesn't want to just say, oh, by the way, you're sick. And by the way, Jesus isn't soft on sin. He calls it sickness. But he invites us to be born again, to be made new, to start over in life. So I have this wrestling match inside my soul. I am no longer a sinner because of Jesus and his grace and his mercy, but I sin. But that is not who I am. I'm no longer a sinner. I'm a child of the King. I am forgiven. I am being made new. I am holy. I struggle living up into who I am, but I am who I am. Let me ask us a question. Do we still believe that people who are far from God could be made new by God? People who made their living cheating people, wrecking their lives. Do we still believe that God can change people? Here's the final point, very quickly. Christ followers invite sinners to Jesus. Christ followers invite sinners to Jesus. It's what Jesus does. In this story with Levi, you gotta love that he threw a party. Like, I think that's great. And Jesus went to the party. The 4 friends, they dragged their friend paralyzed. I was gonna say kicking and screaming, but he couldn't. He was probably just screaming. Bad joke. And they tore off the roof so that Jesus, here's what a lot of religious people do. They go hear Jesus weekly, but they make sure they get the best seats and they don't invite their friends. They just make sure they get to go. The 4 friends, they dragged their buddy. Levi throws a party, and Jesus shows up and says, I want to be there. When you look through the Gospel of Mark, you see it over and over and over and over again. People who knew Jesus told people who didn't know Jesus about Jesus because they were so excited about Jesus. People who knew Jesus told people who didn't know about Jesus because they were so excited about Jesus. Here's something that should mess with us. We say we love people. We say we love our family. We say we love our friends. Can you possibly say in your heart that you love someone? Let me do it this way. If you had the cure to a particular pandemic, and you knew that the people on ventilators could be cured by you, and you kept it a secret, could you honestly say you love anybody there? There's something broken in us when we have the cure for terminal sin, which the Bible teaches is eternity apart from God, damnation, hell. Whatever you understand that to be, here's how I understand hell. It is eternal separation from the lover of our souls and everything that's good. And if I love people, and if I really believe Jesus is the answer, I want to be more like Levi. I want to be more like Jesus. I want to make sure everybody I know knows. Amen. So before we leave, before you turn off your set, your computer, your iPad, your iPhone, who do you know? I invite you, just take a moment and pray for that person, that God would open up their eyes and pour his love into their life. And if possible, to give you an opportunity to love them enough to tell them about Jesus. Let me bless us as we leave. May the Lord our God bless us. May he cause his face to shine on us. May our God who loves us lift up his countenance upon us, filling us with his grace and granting us his peace. Go into the world and be a fully devoted follower of Jesus Christ. Let God love you. Love him in return. And love others. In Jesus' name. Go be the kind of people that the really religious people whisper about. Amen. We're going to invite you to be dismissed from the back to the front, so everybody just hang tight. Go out in the parking lot and high-five and stuff out there, but if you want to. Okay, thank you. Bless you.